Get ready for the kickoff of Coach Red and Company.
Ready?
An inside look at high school athletics like you've never heard before. Hosted by veteran coaches Red Johnston and Shane Huygens. This podcast dives deep into the world of high school sports, exploring much more than scores and stats. Whether you're a coach, a parent, student athlete, or fan, Coach Red and Company is your go-to podcast for the developments beyond the X's and O's of high school sports. Red and Shane are tackling the big topics like NIL, recruiting, team dynamics, and even the dollars and cents behind the game, such as budgets, facilities, and coaching salaries. Let's talk high school sports. Real, raw, and unfiltered. This is Coach Red and Company.
Touchdown!
Welcome back, everybody, to Coach Red and Company. I'm so excited for tonight's episode. We got a man looks like straight out of witness protection right now. The one and only Coach Frank Martin from the UMass Minutemen. Welcome to the show, Coach Martin. Got my sound effects back.
I love it, baby.
So, super excited. Frank's a Florida guy, down in the bottom down there in Miami, grew up down there. Known Frank, I don't know, 20 plus years, probably just through high school and college coaching and, him recruiting a lot of kids in the state of Florida. So, Coach Martin, give us a scouting report on Francisco. I don't even remember the whole name, but Martin.
Yeah, it's long.
Wow. It's a long one. I remember I watched Shane give me your podcast from a year ago from that Full Court Press podcast, and my man had a name. So give us a scouting report on Frank Martin.
Well, the way we've played the last 2 weeks, I should be in witness protection right now. I mean, oh man, Red, man, it's been an incredible journey. Just a little Havana neighborhood, Cuban kid in Miami that grew up idolizing Larry Zonka, and I just wanted to play football. And a high school coach named Shaky Rodriguez would take a liking to us in the neighborhood, and he took a liking to me, and I couldn't play, and he just taught me. And kept me around and taught me. And I was at a crossroads when I tore up my knee my freshman year in college. And, and I quit playing and quit school. I never liked school. I was good in school, but I didn't like school. No one in my family ever gone to college. So I was ready to go get a job. And he convinced me to come help him coach. I said, Coach, I'm like 18, 19. I want to be on South Beach. I want to run around and have fun, man. Coach, but I never said no to him, and I did, and that went from coaching with him for 9 years to then running my own program for a couple of years at North Miami High, back to Miami Senior when he took the job at Florida International. I took a job in 2000 at Northeastern University as an assistant. I was there 4 years. Then Bob Huggins, who had become a friend over the years, hired me in Cincinnati. I was there 2 years and went with him to K-State. And a year later, he was beat up. He didn't want to do it, but he played there. He's magna cum laude there. He's born there at West Virginia, and he just couldn't say no.
Yep.
And I went from being in a car, get ready to go fly to Morgantown with him for his introductory press conference and let's go to work, to 24 hours later, the head coach at Kansas State. And so, 5 years at K-State, 10 at South Carolina. And whenever I get out of this witness protection program, I'll finish my third at UMass.
Oh, man, I love it. Yeah. And it's always great, Frank, you're a lot like I was, or I guess what I thought I was as a coach, just fiery, just passionate, but love the kids. I watched your podcast from a year ago, and one of the biggest things that stood out to me, you just kept coming back. It's all about relationships. It's all about relationships, and how important is that to you as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, everything goes back to how we learned. I don't care where you coach at, whether it's high school, college, professional. It's how you learned is how you go about your job. It's not like, how do I invent myself for this job? At the end of the day, it's how you learn. I lived in the neighborhood where I grew up in and where I coached at. So I was coaching the younger brothers and the nephews of dudes I grew up with. And I still lived in the neighborhood. If I did wrong by them, I didn't have to worry about the media. I didn't have to worry about like my principal. Them guys are showing up at my house and knocking on the door and say, yo, Frank, what you doing?
Yeah.
So you learn that you got to do right by people. And we've created this phony place that doing right by people is making it easy on young people.
Right.
No, it's not. Doing right by people is staying in their corner while you're holding them accountable.
Yeah.
That's what doing right by people is. And I've always prided myself, that's how I'm going to do it. I'm not going to deviate. I say this all the time. Like for the last, let's just forget 50 years ago, last 20 years. Who dominated college football? Nick Saban. Who dominated the NFL? Belichick. Who dominates college basketball? It's all the crusty old dudes that hold people accountable.
Yeah.
Danny Hurley. Like, that's what he does.
He's not
Rick
old and
Pitino.
crusty, but he
No, but he is old and crusty. He's just young.
Yeah.
Rick Pitino just came back. Look what he's doing, and he's one of those guys.
Yep.
It's what works, man. It's you got to hold young people accountable. Getting better, growing is hard. You got to be uncomfortable to experience those things, and it's not uncomfortable by the opposition. It's too late then.
Right.
You got to learn how to be uncomfortable by the people that actually love you, because when you go deal with the opposition, they're trying to knock your head off. They ain't trying to help you.
Right.
So it's a journey, man, and it's the one I believe in and the one I keep fighting to try and create.
And, I fully believe in that concept, holding these kids accountable, making them better. How hard is that now with the portal? I mean, we had Gannon Baker on the other day, on our most recent show. And, he talked about, he said the reason these kids basically jumping up, they get their feelings hurt. Somebody drops a cuss word or, somebody, yells at them. They get their feelings hurt and they get inside and they're leaving. So, how hard is it to have that type of coaching style and that belief and deal with kids that, you say boo, they're gone?
I'm trying to figure it out. I'm just telling you, I'm trying to figure it out. And the hardest part is because if they would leave at the end of the season, it is what it is, man. It's no different than coaching Michael Beasley for 10 months. I got 10 months and he was gone at the end of the year.
Right.
The problem is that when you hold them accountable, they lay it down on you in the middle of the year.
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's middle of the year. They'll fake an injury and say, I can't play. And the doctors and trainer clear them, but they just say, no, it hurts. I can't play. And they won't play.
Right.
So it's made things really, really complicated. And here's the other one, Red. If I were to show you my phone, the amount of text messages, phone calls that I get from agents, street dudes, telling me about players that are at other schools that are going to leave at the end of the year, their seasons are still going on.
Right.
You don't think they're doing that with the guys on my team?
Oh, without
so
a doubt.
I'm in the locker room trying to figure out how to rotate so we can win our next game. Those guys don't care about rotations. They care about, I got to score X number of points and get X number of shots so I can up my NIL value because my guys already got me 2 or 3 schools on the hook. This is wild right now what we're being asked to manage.
Right.
Yeah, Coach Red, Frank, when you're saying that, I mean, I think, me being the older guy, older coach, Red coming older coach, you've been in the game a long time. Like, do you even want that kid, that agent that's hitting you up now saying, hey, I got so-and-so, and you're like, dude, I don't want that kid because he's going to do the same thing to me next year, right?
Correct. That's it's hard. You can't ignore these agents because all these kids hire these agents now, the parents. Yeah. So if you do wrong by the agents, you got no chance at recruiting a transfer.
Right.
But the ones that are texting me now about JUCO kids, I get it.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they're reaching out to me about guys playing at other universities. I'm very cordial, very professional. I listen, hang up the phone. I ain't recruiting that guy.
Exactly.
It's just, you can't do it, man. It's I had a guy. I take pride. I was a school teacher, and I just told you guys, we were talking. I didn't care for school. I did my work because my mom, out of respect for her, but I didn't care for school. So as soon as I can go get a job rather than go to school, I was ready to go do it. I didn't want to go to school anymore. But I realized how much better I've become in life because of my education, going to college and the disciplines and the way it made me develop my mind.
Yeah.
So I'm a school teacher at heart. I've had kids sit in my office and say, I ain't going to class. I can't do anything.
Yeah.
Because if the days of having them run or bringing them in at 6 a.m., that's punishment. And that's another rule that got snuck in during COVID. NIL, transfers, you can't punish them anymore. It's crazy. And the only thing I can do is counsel them or not play them. But my job's on the line if I don't play my good players. Yep. So it's unreal. I'm not trying to bore you with long answers.
No. Those are great answers.
The guys that have had established programs since before COVID are the ones that have been able to adapt to this moment because they've got winning and a core of guys in place that aren't going anywhere. Right. So the new guys come in and they learn. The guys that are struggling are the guys that are trying to build a program since the COVID year. That's been a complicated process because you can't retain your players. And now recruiting's become a straight up money deal. Yeah. And so it's a complicated situation.
So with the portal, recently Pitino says, I'm losing 3 studs. I can't replace them with high school guys. So he's, obviously going to be in the portal looking for some juniors and seniors to come in and replace those guys to keep that train that he's got going there at St. John's. How is the portal and this NIL affected your high school recruiting?
I think that's different for everybody. I mean, he's Rick Pitino. He's in New York. He's got one of the wealthiest guys in the world supporting him through NIL. So he's got the money it takes to go get the really, really good ones. And good for him. I ain't mad at him.
Right.
But, like some guys don't have that kind of money. So you recruiting the portal, like the first 2 weeks of the portal, it's straight money. They don't care about how you coach, what system you run. It is straight up how much money you got. And you make decisions straight, if you got the money, straight up on talent. Forget personalities, forget relationships. It's straight up money. Every school's different. I still recruit high school guys because the money we got, I'm trying to use it to keep our players. So I'm not losing my guys. But I lost, like last year, starting center of Southern Cal was my starting center. Starting one of the top 5-6 players in the ACC this year was my starting power forward. I couldn't keep them. We didn't have the money to keep them. And we did our part. They did their part. They played well. We helped them. So they were worth a lot more money than we can pay. So it's complicated.
Yeah.
Are the mid-majors like the A-10, are they going to be able to opt in to the House versus the NCAA, deal and be able to get that same $20.5 million that the Power Fives are, or is it going to be a lower amount?
Yeah, that number is allocated by the school. You just can't go past a certain number, which I think it's 22.5 or something like that, 20.7. Yeah. I don't remember.
Yep.
Like a salary cap.
Correct. So like there's schools in the A-10 that are right around the $2 million mark in NIL money. Like there's schools in the A-10 that have $200,000 in NIL money. So So that's what you're competing against within your own league, and every league's the same. It's not just the A10.
Right.
Now the in-house number, it's up to your school when you opt in, like what you can afford. And then the AD decides what percentage of that goes to football, what percentage goes to men's basketball, women's basketball, and so forth.
Because
Gotcha.
A10's got only 7 of the 15 schools have football, you guys being one of them. So I saw a thing on, Instagram the other day that if I'm a mid-major player, I'm looking to go to VCU because they're going to have more money to play or pay guys because they don't have football. I mean, so obviously there is no fairness in this whole thing.
Nah.
So I mean, how do you, that's another hurdle you got to deal with.
It's all you can do is, my biggest thing is the people I answer to, are they all in to help us? That's it. Are they going to tell me the truth, and are they all in to help us? The people I answer to are all in to help us. So I'm at peace with their leadership and with the help that they're providing. Now, in reality, Red, we're the only Division I football program in the A10. All the other ones that have football is 1AA or whatever it's called.
Yeah. FCS or whatever it's called. Yeah.
Correct. So for us to sustain a Division I program, and we also have hockey that was national champs 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So, but we're the only A10 school with hockey. So it creates, I'm sorry, Rhode Island has hockey too. No, they don't. I apologize. It's New Hampshire that's got hockey. We're the only one with hockey. So our expenditures are greater as a department than those other schools. And then how we spread the money around is different than how VCU or someone like that spreads the money around.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So,
hey, Coach
ahead.
Red, let me ask you a question real quick. Frank, I don't want to harp on the NIL too much longer. I want to get back into some high school stuff. But I have a question. Have you seen any change in the locker room dynamic between kids with NIL? Johnny knows that this guy gets more money and this guy gets more money, and how are you handling that change if you see that change?
Yeah, it's not. What are you going to do? There's nothing you can do. I had a guy leave this past year because an incoming freshman signed an NIL deal, and he didn't sign one when he came in as a freshman. And he's a good player. But it's this is where as coaches, because the NIL line, the NCAA kept moving it.
Yeah.
And what I mean by moving it is, first those coaches can't be involved. Then it was coaches can be involved. Then it was like you can only be involved to a certain extent, and you can. And I don't have a godfather in this business. I don't mean to act like I'm self-made. You guys known me a long time.
Yeah.
I don't have a godfather in this business. I'm not protected like other guys in this business because of who they work for. All my people are retired, so those guys can't help me. And so if I mess up where I do something that's ethically wrong, number one, I won't do it because that's not who I am. Even though Red thinks I had NIL at Miami Senior back in the day. But if I do something wrong, my career is over. I'm done. And I don't have anybody that's going to save me from mistakes like other coaches have been saved when they get caught making mistakes. And I'm at peace with that. That's not a complaint. That's just my reality, and I'm at peace with it. So I don't get too involved. We got an NIL guy. I help him raise money. When parents ask me, I said, call this guy, and he handles that conversation. And if what they want and what he's got fits, then we do it. And if it doesn't fit, we don't do it. We had a guy commit to us, and there was conversations with my NIL guy, and they came up with a number at peace. some guy back home interjected himself into the conversation after the kid committed and said, they're only paying you that? You got to be kidding me. I can get you this much. So the mom called my assistant, insulted my assistant, insulted my NIL guy. They withdrew the commitment, signed at another school, and for an extra 20, 30 grand. And so it's complicated, man. It's, but everyone's different. But yes, the locker room dynamic is hard, because here's the hardest part of it. Let's say you two guys came to UMass with me when I first got the job. There's no NIL.
Yeah.
And you guys bust your butt and take charges and rebound and do all the stuff that winning requires. Now we get a winning team. Well, that allows us to recruit a different caliber player next year. So now you might get an NIL deal, but now the incoming freshman is a better player, so he requires more money. So now that's in the locker room. What do you think players, and what do we, hey, we all been in the locker room.
Yep.
What do they all do? They lie about what they get. Yeah. Oh, I got this much. I got that much. And it creates a problem in the locker room for the coach to manage. Yeah.
So with the NIL, Frank, one of my biggest concerns, and I want to ask the shoe company people this as well. What do universities and these shoe companies, what responsibility do they have to educate these young people? And, basketball is a lot of inner city kids, and now, they're getting 40, 50, 100, 200,000, $1 million, and they've never had anything, in their life, and Cannon had a great phrase. He goes, you got a kid with popularity and a paycheck. He goes, that's not a good combination. So, does UMass or other schools within the A-10 or around the country, are they providing resources for these kids? Now, granted, I know they got to take advantage of those resources as well. But do the schools have a sense of responsibility to help educate them with financial advisors and tax people?
Yeah, we all do that. Now, to what extent do they listen to us? Two things on the whole dynamic that the NIL world has unleashed. If you're starting to read, you're starting to see schools are getting investigated for gambling.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I said this in an NABC board meeting to the NCAA leadership. I said, you guys are going to give players direct access to people with money? I said, you know what people with money do with their spare money in sports? They gamble. So now these players are going to have a direct line to a person that's got money. Good for them. We're out of it. We got nothing to do with it. Well, that person with money has a bad week. He's going to call Frank Martin and say, yo, Frank, here's the deal. Next week when you got those two games, assuming I'm a player, I got an extra 10 for you, but I need you to call in sick. What do you think the player's going to do? Yeah, that's exactly right. So that's one thing that's been introduced that creates a major problem. And but the education component on this whole thing is like, players are getting all this money. Wait till they start getting taxed on it.
Yep.
Like, they got no idea. They think this is play money. That's like, Monopoly. And wait till they start getting taxed on it. And think about this one. So let's say a kid makes 250 grand. Good for him. I'm all for it.
Yep.
That might be the most money he ever makes.
Yeah.
For the rest of his life. So everyone talks about mental health. Okay, so you go play at school A and you make 250 grand a year for 4 years. And your first pro job playing is in Hungary for 50 grand.
Yeah.
How do you go from making 250 to 50? And guess what? They don't give a rat's what about NIL over there now.
Yeah.
And so we've created this world where now players transfer every year for money. So now they don't have a home. They don't have a school that when they're done playing, they go back to.
Yep.
And they say, yo, help me with a job with, whatever company or on school or hire me on the staff. Why? You were here for 10 months and you played for 4 schools. Thank you, man. You got paid. This wasn't a relationship. This was a financial transaction.
Yeah.
We don't have time for it. And I think it's long-term problems are coming because of the environment we've created.
Yeah.
And Frank, when you say something like that, I always tell people that I believe there's a lot of kids making a lot of bad choices strictly for the money now. I mean, what I mean by that, they're choosing a program for the money now, not for the long haul. Like, hey, let me get into a system that I'm going to look really good in, and it's going to up my draft stock. No, I just want the 40, 50 now because I need money. And I get it. Some of them come from spots where money is obviously a huge issue now. But, I mean, long haul, why do I want a kid to go play football in a system where he really doesn't maybe fit because he's going to get paid a little bit more?
Yep.
I mean, that's a long-term problem that I don't think, people look into.
The money part is, again, like, I don't think the money part's a problem. I think the NCAA was wrong for being so arrogant and not figuring out a way to introduce it a long time ago.
Amen.
In an educational manner, in a positive way, rather than this wild west that we've created.
Right.
The transferring's the problem.
Yeah.
The ability to move schools every year is the problem. So there's no relationships. That at the end of the day, man, like when we all got in trouble, where do we go?
Yeah.
We went to our coach.
Yeah.
When we all lost a job, who did we call to help me with the next job? My coach. Who are these kids going to call now? And all these so-called NIL agents, the majority of them are young street dudes.
Yeah.
They're charging these kids 20%. So if you're my guy, and my school can pay you $50,000, and you're my guy, and you can be with me for 4 years, and we can really develop that bond. So now you got me in your corner to help you whatever you need for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
These kids are passing that up because that NIL guy is telling them go to this other school for 75 because he makes a bigger bang out of 75 than he makes out of 50.
Yeah.
But the kid don't fit that other coach or that other place. It's
they don't realize
it's a complicated moment.
They don't realize, Frank, that Uncle Sam is taxing you on that whole, not what left after you give it. And then I think eventually these states now. Alabama decided they're looking to enact a law where they don't tax NIL money, but you get this jock tax that these pro guys are paying. Every state you play in wants a chunk, and so I think you're right. I don't think these kids really understand what's happening to them. I'm just going to go here. Well, I'm going to play with some dudes that really don't give a crap about you or being in that environment. They're just there to get a check. So the product that gets put on the floor is not going to be very good. And I think it's just bad for college basketball, until we get it reined in and we say, okay, here's X amount of money that you can pay every year. If you transfer, you have to, either stay at that new school for 2 years or you sit out a year again, or, there's a penalty. You got to give some of the money back to the school you left from if you leave within a certain amount of time. I mean, there's got to be some kind of regulations on this thing. But, so, Frank, I want to talk, we talked right before we came on about this new House versus the NCAA and roster limits. And, basketball, we get bumped up 2 more scholarships if a school decides to use them to 15, fully funded. And I was looking in the A10 with the, 15 schools. There's going to be 17 guys off this year's rosters that won't be allowed to come back next year if they finalize this thing in April. So where did those kids go?
I've got 2 guys on my team that came in as walk-ons. They both got recruited in high school, but they're Massachusetts kids, and they wanted to play at UMass. And they came in as walk-ons. And whenever the season ends, I've told my boss, I'm not telling them they got to leave. Like how do I tell those kids? They're in-state kids, man. They're kids that dreamt of playing at UMass, and now I gotta tell them to leave because I gotta go recruit some guy to sit in seat number 13, 14, 15 that's going to be mad at me all year because I'm negating their NIL opportunities because they don't play. Like it's a and Red, it's a little deeper than what you just said. It's not 15 fully scholarship. You can if you want.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I can give my top 5 all the money and have 10 walk-ons. It's whatever. Like it's crazy, man. I mean, at the end, it's my job to figure out the rules.
Yeah.
I can't sitting around and complaining about the rules gets nothing done.
Sure.
But it's okay to sit there and say we got some bad rules. We got to figure out how to get better rules in place.
Absolutely.
And that's that's where I'm at with things. I think the deal is the NCAA has stood back, and they're allowing the SEC and the Big Ten to lead the negotiations for this house settlement.
Yeah.
The SEC and the Big Ten are in a different place.
Yeah.
Their needs are different than, I don't know, there's 30 some odd conference. Their needs are different than 30 of the conferences.
Right.
So it's, and they don't care. Yeah, I was saying that like the SEC and the Big Ten, they're the ones in the negotiations, and I get it. They're powerful.
Yep.
I used to be there. The SEC never, not one time, did they ever sit there and say, hey, we got to be careful here because we got to make sure that the schools in the A-10 are protected. That's none of their business, nor should it be. But the rules, the way they're being put in place, are going to benefit those power schools. And you know what's happening? This is sad. And I predicted this during the COVID year when none of us had a job.
Right.
All we did was all these Zoom calls and all these committees and all. I said, my wife was a track athlete. My daughter's an aspiring volleyball player at the time. Those sports they're going to stop existing. They're going to be all walk-ons, they're going to be club teams because the universities are not going to have the money. So what's going to happen to Title IX? And that's the road we're going in. You're looking at all these schools, they're dropping all these sports because they can't afford the world that they're getting ready to enter because they don't have SEC football.
Right.
They don't have Big Ten football. I ain't hating on those guys. I get it. But it's two different worlds, and we're trying to make it all fit into the same umbrella, and that's not the way it works.
I'm afraid that you're going to get a Power 5. There's going to be like, instead of the FCS and the FBS, I think you're going to have the FCS with just those Power 5s probably, and then the FBS is going to be everybody else. And I think with this roster limit, and Shane and I have talked about this a number of times, I think your JUCOs are going to blow up because kids are going to need to develop, especially high school kids, where guys I think are going to take more portal kids and upperclassmen that can come in right away and compete, or prep schools. I think some of these prep schools may get bigger, and then you're going to get like these agents that think they're agents, guys, I'm going to start a prep school. Shane had one for about 4 years, and did a good job with it. But, to really do it, you got to definitely have some money and some backing in it. So, just talk a little bit, Frank, kind of where your thoughts are with, all right, we got to drop all these kids. Where are they going to go, right? I mean, you obviously don't want to lose your two, but, everybody else, where are they going to go? You think D2 is going to get better, D3 is getting better, or, do you think, my thought about JUCOs has a chance to explode?
We've been very active recruiting junior college this season compared to previous seasons. Why? Because the beginning of the transfer portal, I'm just telling you, it's all money, straight money.
Yep.
So then what happens is their price starts to come down as the opportunities start to disappear. Mm-hmm. But the question as a coach is, do you have the courage to wait till July to fill your roster?
Right.
That's a hard.
Yeah.
Because then you might get a bad kid And here's the other thing with these portal guys, which it's coupled with what we talked about before. You bring in the wrong one, they mess up your locker room, man. Your locker room is dead. And there's nothing you can do to fix it because they're all so pissed in the middle of the year and so worried about their own that they're just waiting for the end of the season and they're all gone.
Right.
And so we've been recruiting JUCOs a lot. I totally agree. I think junior college basketball has gotten better the last 2 years. It's still not what it used to be back in the day, but it's gotten better. And I do think that over the next 2, 3, 4 years, until this college basketball thing, it's like everything else. Eventually the water levels off, and then everyone kind of figures it out. But while we're in this nonstop up and down stuff, I think JUCO basketball is going to get stronger and better. And so recruiting junior colleges and these pop-up prep schools, I think you're exactly right. I think these agents are going to create these pop-up prep schools to raise the value of these kids and then, hold college coaches hostage every single year because they know you got to go recruit somewhere.
Well, I think that's another, and I haven't really thought about it, but, the NCAA, just like if you're an NFL or an NBA agent, you got to take a test and you got to get certified. The NCAA is going to have to do something about this, where they're going to have to say, all right, only certified guys can, kind of broker deals with the NCAA. So we'll see what happens with that. So for high school kids, Frank, what kind of advice would you give them now as far as trying to, get recruited, to come to college right away, or, so some of these tweener guys are, because if you're not in the top 50, top 100, you're rolling the dice.
I think it's going back to the way it used to be. You want me to recruit you? You need to come to my camp, so I can spend 5 days. So I can spend 5 days with you in my camp, watching you hoop, interact with you, watching you interact with everyone at camp, and then if a coach, because the whole AAU circuit deal, why would we go to that?
Right.
Why would we spend a whole month recruiting kids when all that stuff is irrelevant? It's a straight up dollar figure. And so if I was a high school kid and my son is a junior in high school and he wants to be recruited, and I'm telling him, you're going to have to go to people's camps and you're going to have to get yourself in front of those coaches so they can feel you and say, you know what, I like this kid. And then the other part is, if any of those coaches offer you, you better take it right away.
Right.
You better not play games with them, because the longer recruiting goes, the more it tilts to the portal, and the more the longer in the year. I mean, September, October, there's a chance for high school guys. The longer in the year it goes, the more it tilts towards the portal guys.
Mm-hmm.
And the portal now has, is it 2 times a year that it opens?
That's in football.
For football.
Us, it opens.
Football.
Yeah. For us, it opens 1 time.
And that's when? In the summer?
During the NCAA tournament.
Okay.
So you're coaching at the NCAA tournament, trying to win the Sweet 16 game, and there's guys on your bench being recruited by other guys.
Yeah, maybe guys on the court for you, Frank, that are being recruited by other guys. Yeah.
That's the same thing they just did in football. They had it during the playoffs.
Doesn't make sense, really. But they'll figure it out. I think, like Frank said, that's something they got to figure out, and hopefully they'll figure it out sooner rather than later.
It's brutal.
We had a buddy. He'd always say the NCAA was the National Coalition Against Athletes. It's just a dumb decision. It's like, oh, let's put the portal, which has now become huge in all of sports. I mean, I've heard. I mean, how many basketball guys were in the portal last year, Frank? Do you know?
I don't know the number, but I'm gonna hit you with a number that you might know, and if you don't, you're gonna say, "Wow," because it goes back to the point you made a second ago. In Division I football and Division I basketball, 43% of the people that entered the portal got left out.
Yeah, that's what kids don't understand.
And it's a massive number.
Yeah,
it's not.
That's a huge number.
Yeah,
and that's just Division I, right?
That's your Division One, correct?
So now, okay,
So
I
that's
got
where,
43%. Let's just say, 1,000, right? Just for an easy number. So 430 guys don't have a spot.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they may have played a year or two already. Now they don't have a spot. Division two, do I go to JUCO? If the NCAA decides to waive the 2 years of eligibility for JUCO guys, I've heard, and if you heard this, I saw it on Instagram as a CBS Sports thing where the NCAA was looking at doing 5 years of eligibility across the board on all sports.
That's where it's trending. That's not gossip. That's the way it's trending. Is they want to say you've got 5 years to play 5 years.
Right.
Figure it out. And I'll be honest. Like, there's a lot of rules that I don't agree with. There's rules that I just think are antiquated that need to be adapted. I would say this. If you're a student that's pursuing a degree, play. Like, what the hell? We're paying them already.
Right.
What's the big deal? So if you're getting them, you played 4 years of my school, and then you go to school B for your master's, and that's a 1 year program, well, you play another year. It's a 2 year program, you play 2 more years.
Right.
You're a full-time student, play. Seriously, like, what are we doing? Like,
Gotcha.
You want to get a doctorate degree? Play.
Yeah.
Go do what you got to do. Hell,
I said this, Frank.
So you're gonna become a doctor? Isn't that what life's about? Moving forward,
right?
No, man.
If the courts decide that JUCO doesn't count towards your 4 year, 5 years of eligibility for NCAA, right? So I'm a high school kid. I go to prep school for a year. I'm 19 now. Now I said, well, all right, I'm gonna go to San Jack for 2 years, right? So, okay, so now I'm what, 21. Now I'm gonna come in for 5 years of eligibility. I'm 26, 27 years old, and then it's, who knows, after that, by the time you get to those, your 8th year of college basketball or playing, post grad, hell, they may change the rule again and say, okay, like you said, hell, you want to be a doctorate? You're going this class? Here's a couple more years of eligibility.
It's crazy, man. So you can have, like, my point guard is a regular high school kid. He was 17 years old when he graduated from high school. He's a sophomore right now, so he's 19. Every point guard in our league's 23, 24 years old.
Yeah.
Like, the difference, I don't know about you guys, the difference in me from 19 to 23 was day and night.
Yep.
Day and night.
Yep.
But that's a reality of the moment. Think about what you just described. 27 years old, playing against an 18-year-old. Are you kidding me?
I think that's why prep schools and JUCOs are going to explode, because these kids, especially portal guys, and I mean, if Patino's getting guys that are 25, 26, 24, to replace the guys that he loses. Yeah, I can't come. I mean, Cooper Flagg's an anomaly, right? So he's going to compete against guys like that. But there's only a handful of those guys. So how do I got to develop my body, develop my skill set, my mind, develop all that? Well, you know what? Here's 2 years that's not going to count against me. So why wouldn't I go to junior college, or why wouldn't I do a prep school and a junior college? So now when I step in at 21, 22, okay, now I got a fighting chance.
Hey, Red, real quick before, I know we got to let Frank go in a little bit. So we had Gannon Baker on just recently, Frank, and he was talking about, we were talking about like high school guys, trying to up their coaching game and improving their coaching. And he talked about mentorship, finding a good mentor. And I know you mentioned, the legendary Shaky Rodriguez, but who are some other mentors when you were younger growing up in this coaching game? Because to be honest with you, you did something that we all wanted to do as a high school coach. We were all going to Final Fours, handing out resumes to anyone and everyone that would read them.
Slipping them under the door.
We all thought we knew somebody that was going to get us a job, but we didn't know that he had 7 other buddies that were better friends than we were, type deal,
And we were trying to find whoever can buy us a beer. Like,
I didn't want to say that, but 100%.
We're running around with Gordon Gibbons trying to see how many beers we can drink with Gordon. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's this is wild. because Shaky mentored us both, but he was my high school teammate. He's my brother, but he's been my mentor in this business too, Anthony Grant, because he made the jump into college before I did.
Okay.
But you know, we grew up together, graduated from high school together, you know. So Anthony knows me like a book, and he's mentored me while I was coaching high school basketball, what college was all about, which helped me understand that.
Yeah.
You know, Bob Huggins took a liking to me in 1990 when he got hired to Cincinnati. Don't ask me why. I was Shaky's assistant, and he took a liking to me, and he would just help me understand, and wouldn't hire me. But he'd help me. And when I got into college and I worked and learned the college game, then he hired me. And you know, you know, our athletic director at Miami Senior, Jose Nunez, who was an assistant coach when he was Shaky's assistant when I was in high school. He always been a great mentor. My you know, I don't mean to be cheesy, but my mom and my grandmother were incredible mentors to me.
Yeah.
You know, my grandmother, my mom is a sweetheart to this day. She's still a sweetheart. Like her heart, her generosity is incredible. My grandmother was the whip. She, like, when people look at me and say, Frank, those growls and those faces, that's all my grandma.
That's grandma.
That's like, if I disrespected the house when I was young, I was getting that. When I got older, it was the broomstick upside my head. It was one or the other. But those are pretty much the people that have really, really, you know, Andy Kennedy has become a mentor to me as men. We met as men, and we ended up working together. Andy's got an unbelievable way of thinking through commotion. Like when things are spinning around in circles, that guy's mind is clear as day.
Wow.
So I always call him, and he talks me through things. It gives me perspective so I can try and make decisions. But those are the guys I would say.
So you can even have a mentor, like you said, as a grown man, still got guys you can count on, give a call to, have your back, can talk you through things. So if you're a young coach out there and you're trying to work your way up, find some good mentors to help you out. Yeah. And when you get to that level, keep the mentorship going between you all.
And you know what you learn when you do that is we've created this, like the coaching profession used to be, we used to share conversations, go to dinner together, tell each other about our recruiting stories, about the issues we have on our teams. Well, the young part of the coaching profession has become too private because they're all trying to like sneak something through or keep something away from you. And what happens is you start thinking that you're the only one that's having those issues. When you start talking to other coaches, whether they're mentors or peers, you realize we're all in the same boat. I don't care how successful some of these guys are. They're fighting the same battles that I've got and that the next guy's got. So it gives us a peace of mind to do our jobs and not be wrapped up with negativity, thinking that we're the only ones that got issues.
Awesome.
You know, and I said with a lot of this stuff that's going on, Frank, you know, it's becoming, you know, a young guy's game, you know, and I hope that, you know, Shane had a great quote from Bobby Knight's wife, you know, if he sticks around long enough, his coaching style is going to come back into fashion, right? And I think, you know, with Patino, you know, the clip of him getting after some kid's ass in the locker room the other day, you know, is coming back. You know, you're holding the guys accountable. You know, Izzo's always holding guys accountable, you know. But then you get guys like Leonard Hamilton leaving, my man from Miami that left right at the beginning of the season,
Jim Larrañaga.
You know, just great coaches. You know, obviously, you know, Saban said he had a tough year, and everybody, of course, thought it was because of the NIL. But you know, he said on game day,
Jay Wright.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, it's
2 weeks before the season started.
You know, it's crazy. Tough to see these guys go. You know, and I don't know. Just
it's not. Yeah, but Red. Here's the deal. It's not what it's like I learned to work like those guys work. It's not the moment we're in right now. It's not what we signed up for.
Yeah.
So when you don't fit, either you adapt or you got to get out.
Yeah.
Or you get out.
But you can't be negative and be in it because the world's moving in a different direction.
Sure.
Just let it go. Let it go. And that's, I think, I don't want to speak for those guys.
Yeah.
You know, Coach Larinaga, Leonard Hamilton, you know, those guys are up there in age, and the job never stops now.
Right.
Because of the amount of time, because of what we talked about, the issues in the locker room, the amount of time we have to spend after every game to make sure that our guys' heads are in the right place. It just dominates your whole day. Forget watching film. The whole day's dominated with conversations with your players to make sure that they stay focused on what matters.
Yeah.
For your team, not for them individually, for your team.
And I think,
and then recruiting, we're recruiting off each other's rosters while we're still playing.
Right.
And then the season ends, and you go from the 6-7 month grind of the season, you go right into portal recruiting. So now you're bringing guys in on visits. You're going to visit them. And then comes high school recruiting. Before you know it, it's June. You got camps. And you're still scrambling to fill your roster. Yeah. Then it's July, AAU season. You're gone the whole month. And then all of a sudden you look around, and it's August 17th, and everyone looks back on campus, and you're like, here we go again.
Yeah.
It never stops.
And that's, I don't know. I mean, I think we all agree, you know, something's definitely got to give in this, you know, and it's, you know, just one of those things where I think everybody put the cart before the horse, you know, didn't think it through on a lot of different things. But, you know, like.
Hey, Red, so here's a guy that you know very well. You said the name, so I'm going to piggyback on it. Leonard Hamilton.
Yeah.
All Leonard ever wants is for you to care that he cares about you.
Right.
As a player.
Yeah.
Like, he don't want you to score 25. He'd rather you do. But he just wants you to know, like, hey, man, I care about you. And he just wants to make sure that you care that he cares about you. That doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
So as coaches, we're left with a hollow. All of us that matters to us. It leaves us with a hollow feeling every day.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to help them as human beings so they can succeed. And they want to listen to people that don't do the coaching.
Yeah.
As to what's best for their life and in the world of basketball.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
You know, that old adage, you know, they don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. I think that, you know,
correct.
They don't care how much you know until they know how much they're going to get paid, you know.
There you go. That's
you know,
the new
we need
quote.
to change that.
I'm using it.
And, you know, yeah, everybody's got an ego and they want to win. But, you know, when you get in it for the right reasons and you have a kid for 4 or 5 years, and, you know, I was talking to somebody, one of our guests, and I'm like, you know, when I get a kid that's now 40, 35, 40 years old, 42, and they come by the house and they bring their wife and their kids and, hey, coach, you know, we're in town, wanted to stop by. Man, you know that feeling, Frank. I mean, that just melts you, right? And you get to see it. And, you know, like you said, these kids got no homes now. You know, you go to 4 or 5 different schools. It's like, you know, when I was at Oak Ridge, we were overseas. I came back for 1 year. I was the assistant AD, and we had this kid, a grown man, full of beard, just chiseled. And he came down between Notre Dame and Michigan. He was a linebacker to play. And he had his parents did a phenomenal job with this kid. I would talk to him about, you know, what he's thinking, where he wanted to go. He's like, Coach, he goes, whether I play or not, that I determine that based on what I do on the field. He goes, I'm looking for a school that's going to help me 20 years from now with their alumni base and be able to get connected and further my career and be able to call somebody to get a job because I'm either Notre Dame grad or a Michigan grad. He goes, I'm not worried about playing the next 4 years. He goes, I'm worried about setting myself up, you know, for the 20, 30 years after I'm done playing. And I was, you know, kids definitely aren't thinking that way. It's a money grab. You know, I think that's all it is right now, and it makes it tough for guys, you know, like you that are in this, you know, for the right reasons and want to have an effect and you know, on young men and even on the women's side. You know, I don't think it's as bad on the women's side, but I could be wrong.
It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
You know,
Whatever comes in our game, it's just a day behind in their game.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah.
and that's, you know, to see what, you know, Dawn did, you know, at South Carolina over the years, and to be able to, you know, do some things. And, you know, you're right. I think it is going to come. And I think, you know, hopefully she can hang on, and some of these other guys. You know, I hear Gino all the time talking about it. You know, he goes, let's just call it what it is. These guys are pros. You know, whether it's semi-pros, let's give them a contract. Let's hold them to the contract. You sign a 4-year deal. You got to commit to play in those 4 years. This is the amount of money we're going to give you, and go on. You know, but as, you know, a purist of the game, I hate to see it.
The problem with that, Red, and government that's trying to, in the middle of negotiations, they don't want them to be pros, and they've been talked down. They originally wanted them to be pros.
Right.
They've been talked down because if you make them pros, then they're gonna you either got collective bargaining or you got free enterprise. You can't have them both.
Right.
And so to get the antitrust, so we don't get the NCAA don't get sued, the government had to get involved to get those laws passed so the NCAA doesn't get sued. But I think I've made this proposition. We should have two choices. You got to go to school regardless. So I can go to Red and say, Red, I'm offering you a 2-year contract for $500,000, but you got to pay for your classes. You got to pay for where you live. That's your deal. If you want to get out of that contract, this is the buyout. If you don't show up to work, this is how much you owe me.
Right.
Shane, I'm offering you a 4-year college scholarship. So now that makes Red, that makes you an employee. That makes Shane what it used to be.
Right.
So now Shane, at the end of a year, you want to transfer and play at school B, you got the right to do that. But if you want to play at school B, someone's got to reimburse my school for the academic expenses that we had on you. Not the athletic expenses, the academic expenses. Somebody pays that, then you're eligible right away. Somebody doesn't pay that, then you got to sit out a year. It's real simple.
Yeah.
And that means, Shane, you're still an amateur.
Yeah.
And Red, you chose to be a pro.
Right.
Because now you're going to have union and collectively bargain numbers. The problem is that if they go full employment, Title IX's out the window.
Right.
And if Title IX's out the window, then all our campuses are going to be straight up football, men's basketball. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't want that. To be honest with you, we don't want that at all. Not at all.
No.
That's not what sports and athletics in college were created for.
No. Right? That's why I think there should be an option A and option B.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And as long as guys or females, whatever, are accepting the old traditional way, then you can keep your Title IX numbers in place. So you keep your other sports.
Gotcha.
That's my.
Well, I think,
I don't know if it can be done that way, but it's just an idea.
you know, with the whole thing, you know, where it came on campus now in the fall, you know, of course, the old administration said, okay, well, if it comes on campus, it's going to be under, you know, financial aid. It's going to be considered Title IX. So now you got to disperse it. Well, now the new administration kicks that ruling out. And now, you know, who knows what it's going to look like. And if that's the case where it's not under Title IX, then now, you know, you got schools doing 75, 80% of that money going to football, and then 20%, you know, probably going to go to men's basketball and maybe some women's, depending on the school you're at. So it'll be interesting in the next few years. But, you know, Frank, love it, brother. You know, I appreciate you, you know, coming out of witness protection, talking to us for a little while today.
I'm I'm glad I didn't have to talk about Miami High NIL. I'm glad. I didn't have to touch that one.
I know
Hey, we'll
some
get
of those
back to you on that one.
boosters.
Don't worry.
Some of those boosters that were down there back in the day, they might be able to write some NIL legislation, from some of the stories you hear. But, it's always great talking to you. I love, the fact that, you're open, you're honest with everything, Frank. I wish you the best of luck there at UMass and going forward. I know it's been a little bit tougher season than you wanted this year, but, you'll right that ship. You'll figure it out.
Always does.
So,
Much respect.
you're always welcome here on Coach Red and Company. And, we greatly appreciate everything you do and taking time out. Thank God the referees didn't show up on time tonight for your son's game. And, we got a little bit of time with you, but, we appreciate it. If anybody wants to reach out to you, Frank, they got a kid that, wants to play for the right reason. How can they get a hold of you?
Coach Martin at UMass.edu.
Awesome.
Perfect.
And do you have any social media presence at all, Frank? Are you one of the more
I
guys
do.
that say?
I do. Yeah. I've got a Twitter. I don't know it off the top of my head, my Twitter handle. But it's
Your
if
X
you
handle.
if you Google, X, excuse me. If you search my name in Twitter, you'll see it. I'm there. I don't really. I'm not big on reading social media. Every once in a while, I jump on there and I read. Like if I follow you, I'll read what you put on.
Right.
But I don't read whatever nonsense people say about me or that or whatever. That to me is irrelevant.
Well, once we get this edited and put up on YouTube, share it with as many people as you can. Get it to as many high school people. We're trying to give as much information about high school sports and that transition into college as we can. Trying to get as many guests as we can on here. So we appreciate you taking that time with us, Frank.
You guys are my brothers, man. You guys, whatever I can do to amplify the message that you guys are sending, which is the right message, what's needed for success. Count on me. I'll do whatever I need to do to help you guys with it.
Appreciate it, Coach Martin.
Absolutely.
And Shane, what a great conversation with Frank. Love talking to that dude. I mean, he's absolutely hysterical. But he's genuine. He always wants what's best for his kids and his players, and he does it the right way, and it's definitely dropped some gems, some things I hadn't thought about, some insider kind of trading info. Obviously being in it every day, he's going to see a lot more things and hear a lot more things than we are. So, give us your thoughts on, all the stuff he had to say.
Yeah, for those people out there that aren't Florida people, Frank is definitely a Florida legend. He did a lot of things for a little guy coming from Little Havana in Miami and coming up through the ranks and doing the high school, going on to the SEC Final Four. Man, that's a thing that we probably all dreamed of as coaches, and so he is definitely legendary there and gave us some great insight. Spoke a lot on the NIL, and I know that we're more high school based is our but going into college, NIL is becoming a big issue for a lot of people. So to hear his thoughts on NIL and how the transfer portal was, getting called from guys now already. The season's not even over yet, Red, and they're trying to recruit his players or trying to send him new players. And I think I talked to you before, and I kind of wanted to bring it up, but I said, yeah, maybe I'll stay away from it. He had talked about all these agents, so-called agents, right?
Yep.
And I think I had mentioned to you one time, I said, man, I bet you could become an NIL agent and just start calling coaches saying you got kids and tell them you'll come for a certain amount. And then when you get that number figured out, then you reach out to the kid who you don't even know and say, hey, I got this amount for you. So it becomes, I feel like it's going to become, it could become quite a shady game there for a little bit until, like you say, where you got to get some You got to get some certification. You got to pass some tests. You got to have some criteria that these guys get a hold of, because I always mentioned back in the day, and when we were coaching, that everyone on the outside is going to tell you what you want to hear, right? But the 5 guys or the 6 coaches, we're going to tell you what you need to hear.
Yeah.
And when you're talking NIL, Frank mentioned it, how had a kid committed. Kid was fine and dandy. All of a sudden, here comes some guy out of the blue. Hey, you're only getting paid this much? Wait a second. I can get you way more than that. Just like that, kid that he thinks is committed to UMass, that wants to be at UMass, wants to play for Coach Martin, is now gone in the wind because some guy found him a couple extra bucks somewhere else.
Yeah. And, he talked about, those agents getting 20%.
Oh, that's crazy.
I'm like,
that's real money, man.
Yeah. I mean, you talking about a cat getting, a couple $100,000, you're looking at about 40 G's. So, that kind of shocked me. And I'm sure, there's different levels for different guys. But there's definitely got to be some kind of control with these guys, and some NCAA regulations have to come in to play with them. You're only allowed to talk to coaches about money, after the season, after their season's done. If they don't make postseason tournament, cool, we can talk about it. But as long as they're in season, you shouldn't be able to talk to anybody. The whole portal thing being open during the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Who the heck thinks of this stuff?
Yeah.
I'm like,
it's that law of unintended consequences. Again, it always sounds like, oh, that'll be perfect. And then you do it. And you're like, what the heck did we just do?
But man,
that's got to be the dumbest time possible.
Dumbest time. And the same with football. They had the football portal open during the playoffs and the bowl season.
Before the bowl games, before the playoffs.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. But like Frank said, it's right now. It's a wavy season, right?
Yeah.
But he said, give it a couple of years, everything will work itself out. Everyone will understand the new rules and how you play by the rules. The problem is right now, there's a lot of new rules literally coming every day.
Yeah.
It seems like we get something new every day.
Right.
And everyone, when there's kind of no rules, and the rules are forever changing, a lot of people try jumping in on things because they see that as an opportune time,
right,
to kind of get in it, because they know in a couple of years they won't be able to get in it because the criteria will be changed and they won't be able to do it. But they know now, I got a couple of years.
Yeah,
I can probably open up my NIL agency. I can do this. I can broker deals, because in a couple of years, when everyone figures out how to do it, they're not going to be able to jump in that market anymore. So it's unfortunate that we got to go through a couple of years of this and that, but it'll all work its way out in the end.
Yeah. And I think, when we talked a little bit about high school kids and the recruiting process, he says he still does recruit some high school kids, but he also, has got a bunch of JUCO kids, and you get some guys now that are 24, 25, and, probably a couple older ones this year with the COVID year. Kids that are coming out, like he said, between, was it 17 and 24 was just, it's a huge difference, and guys in their bodies and their development, that 5 or 6 years of development over that time span is huge. So, I really think that high school kids need to think and consider the opportunities that prep schools and junior college can provide them. You pick the right one. We'll see in the next, year what the NCAA does with junior college eligibility. And if they say that neither of the 2 years count towards your eligibility and we're going to give you 5, I'm sending my kid to junior college. My daughter just ended up 2 years of junior college. So now, I hope the ruling comes where she can play another 4 years.
Yeah.
And go from there. We'll see. I'm gonna write it down. We're on camera, we're on tape.
Yeah.
So if it comes to, a couple of years from now, and junior colleges have exploded, and some are adding more sports, and hopefully Valencia
Check
comes
for Coach
back,
Red.
and Seminole comes back, and some of these other ones, but South Florida Community College down there in Avon Park's got a gorgeous gym and no basketball team. They do play women's volleyball in there, but it's like, we're missing out. So we'll see what happens. But great conversation with Frank.
Yeah.
And again, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you're seeing, you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave us a comment about what you're hearing. Leave us a comment about different topics that you'd like us to discuss, or, give us an idea of, a guest you'd like to see. And, we'll do our best to get them on. I'm going to reach back out to Frank and, see if he can maybe put us in touch with, Coach Dawn Staley, and maybe, she'll be willing to come on and talk about the ladies side. I'm definitely a huge fan, because I have two daughters and my wife played women's basketball at the D2 level. So would love to get her and, some other ladies on. So we'll definitely pursue that. But, we appreciate you guys watching. Again, we're on Spotify. So, check us out there, like that, subscribe, share that, and if you have, comments, definitely leave them down below. So,
Coach Red, one quick thing that I wanted to say, and Frank said this: young kids, if a school wants you, you better take it. Frank said it. He said it right there.
He talked about his own kid.
If you wait too long, you're going to miss the boat.
Yep.
So I know you kind of want to, back in the day, I'd shop around and this and that. There ain't that many spots, and especially with this head count, scholarship limit coming in, and guys having to go down their ladder. Hey, if you think it's a good fit, I'm not telling you just commit just because. But if you feel like it's a good fit, and it's I'd get on it, because you're going to miss the boat, and I don't want to see any high school guys miss the boat because they're getting bad advice and so forth. So that was my final comment. So that's all.
So we appreciate you guys watching. I got to come up with some fancy, catchy slogan at the end. I said last time, keep swinging for the fences. Hey, you keep shooting till you miss, and then keep shooting till you get back on, man. Hey, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So, keep shooting your shot.
Maybe that's it right there.
We appreciate you guys watching us. Let's get this thing 250 subscribers here soon. So, we appreciate you here, Coach Red and Company. You guys have a great night.
Be good.
This has been Coach Red and Company, the premier podcast that takes an inside look at high school athletics like you've never heard before.
Touchdown!
Both Red and Shane are veteran coaches, and their passion is high school sports and going beyond just the X's and O's. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube at Coach Red and Company. Email us at coachredandcompany@gmail.com.